Hi friends, my name is Miss Kristen and I work for the Dixon Gallery and Gardens. I'm really excited to tell you guys about some super cool art that's coming to the museum in October of this year. So the Dixon Gallery is an art museum, but we also have 17 acres of beautiful plants, flowers, and trees outside in our gardens. So if you've never been to the Dixon, I hope you'll go in person and see just how beautiful it is for yourself. But today we're going to learn about some of the artwork that's inside the museum. When you go inside the Dixon, the art is always changing. It doesn't stay the same. That means if you go visit the Dixon in January and then you go back in October, the art that you see on the wall is going to be totally different. That's because we put 3 or 4 exhibitions together every single year. An exhibition is just another word for an art show. When we put together an art show, we borrow art. Sometimes we borrow art from other art museums, other times we borrow it from artists or our collectors. But we bring the artwork to the Dixon right here in Memphis, Tennessee, so that our community can see it and enjoy it. The artwork can come from all over the world. Some of it's really old, some of it's really new, but it's always something new and exciting that we've never seen before. So on October 11th, the Dixon is opening a brand new exhibition called Illuminating the Word, the St. John's Bible. So I hope you guys will hang out with me for just a little bit. We're going to learn a little bit more about that exhibition, and then we're going to create something inspired by it. So let's get ready to learn something new and make something together. An illuminated manuscript is a really old form of art. It's a handwritten book, and it has beautiful decorations and pictures. The oldest ones were made over 3,000 years ago. Today, when a book is made, machines and computers help us so that it makes the work a lot easier. You can type the words on a computer, and an artist can draw the pictures and scan them in, and then machines can make thousands of copies. But before those machines and computers existed, each book was one of a kind. So that meant that every word in the book had to be written by someone, and every picture had to be illustrated or drawn. So most of the illuminated manuscripts were religious texts, and they were really long books, so it took lots and lots of work by a whole team of people to make each one. Calligraphers are the ones who wrote the words in the book. They knew just how to keep the letters looking beautiful and neat, and sometimes they even decorated their letters, like in this picture. Then a team of artists would draw the illustrations to go along with the words. Their job was to tell the story through pictures. In the Middle Ages, when illuminated manuscripts were really popular, not everyone could read, so the pictures were really important in helping them understand the story. Artists would often even use silver and gold to show just how important the books were. And then finally, a team of bookbinders would glue all the pages together to make the cover for the book. Sometimes they would even use precious materials like gems or ivory, and it took a lot of people a lot of time to make each illuminated manuscript. So on October 11th, a book that's inspired by that process of creating an illuminated manuscript is coming to the Dixon Gallery and Gardens. It's called the St. John's Bible. It's not as old as the illuminated manuscripts I was telling you about. It was just finished 9 years ago. But it took a whole team of artists and calligraphers and historians almost 15 years to finish. So to create the St. John's Bible, a team of historians studied those techniques from the traditional way of making an illuminated manuscript, and they planned the project. 23 artists and assistants and calligraphers worked together to make it. So just like in the illuminated manuscripts we looked at earlier, each word is handwritten, and the paintings were all created by artists. There are over 1,000 handwritten pages, and they were made by using a quill from a feather. There are over 160 illustrations, and you can see that they sometimes used silver and gold in their artwork too. So just like an illuminated manuscript, the St. John's Bible is one of a kind, and there's nothing else like it. The Bible will be at the Dixon, and you can go and see it until January 10th, 2021. So I hope you'll go see it in person. But today, we're going to make a project that's inspired by the idea of illuminated manuscripts. Depending on whether you're in kindergarten, first, or second grade, your project will look just a little different today. If you're in kindergarten, just keep watching. If you're in first grade, skip ahead to 8 minutes and 13 seconds. If you're in second grade, skip ahead to 11 minutes and 14 seconds. Kindergarten students are going to make an illustrated letter today. Let's start by gathering our supplies. You'll need a piece of paper, a pencil, and then something to color with. You might use markers or crayons or both today. Using your pencil, you're going to sketch out a very large letter. You can use whichever letter you want. You might want to use the letter that your name starts with, or maybe you have a favorite letter. But we want our letter to fill up almost all of our page, so you can see I'm drawing a letter T and I'm making it really big. Once you've got your letter on your page, we're going to carefully draw a line around our letter. This is kind of a way of making our letter look big and bold, kind of like a bubble. So I'm just tracing a line all the way around it, not touching my original letter. Now go back and erase the letter that you drew at the beginning, but leave the line that you drew around your letter. Remember, you don't have to draw a T, that's just what I'm drawing today, but you can do any letter you want. Now I'm going to go back with a marker and trace around the lines that I drew. This will help my letter stand out. Now it's time to decorate your letter. You can use crayons or markers for this step, but you want to fill your letter with patterns and colors and make it look extra beautiful. Try not to leave any white spots inside your letter. Now it's time to illustrate our letter, or in other words, we're going to draw around it. Today, we're going to be drawing things and objects that start with the letter you've chosen. So for me, since I chose a letter T, I'm going to draw all things that start with a T, like a turtle, a tornado, a trumpet. You can draw anything you want today as long as it starts with a letter that you've picked. Turn your page, filling up your whole page with objects all the way around your letter. Once you've finished all your illustrations, you can go back and add some extra designs anywhere you have blank spaces on your page. Now it's time to add some color. You can use crayons or markers, but go back and color in all of your illustrations. You can color in the background too, so that your project looks really nice and finished. And that's it. My illustrated letter is complete. I hope you had fun making this project. If you're proud of what you made, you can share it with the Dixon using the hashtag DixonAtHome or DiscoverTheDixon. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope you'll keep creating. See you soon. First grade students will make an illustrated list inspired by a letter of the alphabet today. First, let's gather our supplies. We'll need a piece of paper and a pencil, and then something to add some color like crayons or markers. First, we'll choose a letter for the theme of our art project today. You can choose any letter you want. It might be the first letter of your name, or it might just be your favorite. Start by writing that letter in the top left corner of your paper. To make my letter stand out more, I decided to turn it into a bubble letter. An easy trick for doing this is to draw your letter first and then trace a line around the edge of it without touching the middle letter. After that, you can go back and erase the line from the middle and you'll have a bubble letter. Now I'll go back and add some extra details to my letter. You can decorate your letter however you want, with patterns or designs, but make sure to make it really detailed so that it will stand out. Now I'll go back with the marker to outline my letter and add some color. The next step is to brainstorm a list that start with the letter you've chosen. So for me, I'm thinking of all different kinds of words that start with the letter C. Make sure to leave a little bit of space around the edges of your paper at the top or the bottom so that we can go back and add illustrations later. You might start this step with a pencil and then trace over it with a marker, or even brainstorm your list on a separate piece of paper. That way, if you make any mistakes, you can just erase them. Once you have a few words written on your page, you can go back and start adding some illustrations. Your illustrations can be drawings of words that you've included in your list, or they can be things that start with your letter that aren't in your list. I'm going to add several different illustrations all around my page to make my project look more interesting. Keep adding illustrations and words until you fill your whole page. Then you can go back and start adding color. You can use markers or crayons or a combination. I'm going to color in every one of my illustrations and the background of my paper. And that's it. Our illustrated letter is finished. If you really enjoyed this project, you can go back and make a different page for every letter of the alphabet. Or if you're proud of what you made, you can share it with the Dixon using the hashtag DixonAtHome or DiscoverTheDixon. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope you'll keep creating. Bye! Second grade students will make an illustrated story inspired by a letter of the alphabet. Let's start by gathering our supplies. You'll need a piece of paper for the project, a scrap piece of paper for brainstorming, a pencil, and something to add some color like crayons or markers or both. Let's start by choosing a letter for our story. You can choose any letter you want. You might choose the first letter of your name or just your favorite. I'm going to start by drawing my letter in the top left corner of my paper. To make it stand out, I'm going to use a bubble letter. An easy way to draw a bubble letter is to write your letter regularly and then trace around the edge with a line that doesn't touch the letter. After that, you can go back and erase the letter from the middle and you'll have a bubble letter. Now I'll go back and add some details to my letter. You can add details however you like. You might draw patterns inside or add a shadow to your letter, but I'm going to use markers to color it in so that it really stands out. Next, let's brainstorm lots of words that start with the letter you've chosen. Using my scrap piece of paper, I'm going to list every word I can think of that starts with R. Again, you'll list whatever words start with the letter you've chosen for your project today. Now that I have a long list of words that start with R, I'm going to see how many of them I can use to write a story. Your story can be about anything, and not all of the words have to start with the letter you've chosen, but try to use as many of them as you can to tell a story. You can start by using a pencil first, that way if you make any mistakes, it's easy to erase and change. My story about Randy the Rhino ended up with 23 words that started with the letter R. How many words can you include that start with your letter? Once your story is written, you can go back and add some illustrations. Anywhere you have an empty spot on your page can be a spot for a drawing. I'm including things from my story like a rhinoceros, a rabbit, and a rock, but you can include any drawing that will help the reader understand what's going on in your story. Now that my story is written and illustrated, I'm going to go back and trace over the words of my story and the pictures with a marker to help them stand out. The last step is to add color. I'm going to use a combination of markers and crayons to color in all of my illustrations and the background of my story. That's it! Your illustrated story is complete. If you had fun making this project, you can share it with the Dixon using the hashtag DixonAtHome or DiscoverTheDixon. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope you'll keep creating. See you soon!